Elite students can't read books, y'all. Y'all heard right. Yes, in this episode, I'm going to be talking about how you have students going to schools like Stanford, Columbia, Harvard, and they struggling to read these books. Please stay tuned for this episode so you can get the scoop on what I'm talking about. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues that are at the very core, the very foundation as to why we have these low levels of literacy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together. Y'all, welcome, welcome. I hope that you all are doing great. I am once again coming on here to empower the community, to inspire us, number one, to get back into those books, making sure that we are being the example as adults, as caregivers, because we are in a situation where we have our kids who are like, I'm straight with the books, okay? And so we have to, as adults, we are responsible for setting the tone, being an example, being a model for our young folks. So now with that being said, y'all, I'm about to get right on to this topic that I wanted to address in this episode. Now, I just recently read this article in The Atlantic. This was an article that I got privy to when I was on my LinkedIn page, and someone that I'm connected to, they had posted this article. And so I'm like, and the article reads, the title of it is da, 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 The Elite College Students Who Can't Read Books. I was like, what? So of course, that definitely caught my eye, right? And I'm reading the article, and it basically is talking about in this article how a lot of these students who are going to these elite colleges, Columbia, Stanford, Harvard, all these different elite colleges, a lot of these kids are struggling when it comes to those reading lists that they are given by their teachers. And and the struggle comes from the fact that it's not that they like can't read, it's not that they're illiterate, it's just that they have not been accustomed to be in the practice of reading books in their entirety. Why do I say this? Well, it talks about in the article how a lot of those kids who are going into college, a lot of them talk about how it wasn't like had to read a book, the whole book, when they were in middle school and high school a lot of times. And my educators, y'all know what I'm talking about. So basically, they have had to read excerpts, passages, okay? So these are things that has been more pushed in the classroom, and not them being able to read a book from cover to cover. And so when they get to these colleges, especially a lot of these elite schools, and they're given these reading lists where they have to read, like maybe books like the Iliad they talked about, or, whatever other, types of books, or what is it called? I think Crime and Punishment, Pride and Prejudice, different things, those types of books, or whatever the case may be. They are like, I can't even do it. And because they don't have the stamina. They don't, it's like when they get to reading, they check out like probably after the first couple of pages or so, because they were only used to reading, again, excerpts, passages, different things like that. So they were not accustomed to being able to develop that, the stamina, being able to develop that patience that it takes to be able to read those books. And so when I was reading this, and I was just like, wow, man, I said, this is nothing but the truth, because that's exactly what you see in a lot of these schools. These kids, Like, in fact, my daughter, she was telling me that they had started to read the book, The Hate You Give. I think it's by her name is Angela Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and so, she was pretty excited about that. She's like, okay, yeah, we're about to read The Hate You Give. And me and my two of my children had read it a few years ago. In fact, that was something we had did together. And then we went to go see the movie after we read the book. And so my daughter, who is a sophomore, and this was actually her freshman year, they were supposed to read that book. And so, and I think it was like maybe about a week or a couple of weeks or so after, I was like, oh, I said, how's the book coming? And she was like, we're not reading it anymore. We just read, some parts of it, and then we had to move on to something else. And I was just like, for real? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so what the article though was talking about was addressing is that, and I'm about to go right to the part where one of the things that has the reason why we're seeing this in the classroom is because some of us are familiar with what's that called, the No Child Left Behind, and the Common Core, right? Well, in those particular, the whole concept with that, the whole No Child Left Behind and Common Core, when it comes to reading, they emphasize informational texts and standardized tests. And so what happens is the teachers are basically told to just focus on things like making sure the kids, they understand, of course, the author's main idea, okay, making sure they can understand how to answer the questions for those tests. So that's really the main thing that's really being pushed in the classes. And as we know, those of us who are readers, even if you're not a voracious reader or an avid reader, if you are somebody who enjoys reading, you get your book in, maybe you get like a couple books a month in or something like that. You understand that when you're reading a book, you can't just, number one, you can't just start the book from like the middle. You can't just go and pick pieces apart. You have to read from the beginning, when you get to the middle, and to the end, so that you can understand what's going on throughout the book, whether the book is a fictional book or a nonfiction book, realistic fiction, a novel, whatever the case may be. You need to read that book from beginning to end. And that right there is going to help you with a plethora of things. For example, it helps you with understanding that things go in order. You have to be able to know what's going on from the beginning, and then so that you can be able to understand, oh, okay, so this is why this happened, because this is what happened in the beginning of the story. If you're just going in the book and just picking stuff apart, and you don't really understand, you don't even get, say for example, if there's a book and there's a fictional book, and then you have the characters, you get to see how they develop throughout the story. How are you going to see that? How are you going to understand, well, why did Malika make this particular uh, choice, referencing the book, The Skin I'm In? Why does she make this particular choice? Why is she doing what she's doing? Why did she make that decision, or whatever the case may be? The only way you'll be able to understand that is by reading the book from the beginning. And I'm thinking about that, and I was just like, wow. I said, here it is, we're in a society that has been telling us that, yes, these kids need to make sure, we need to make sure they're reading. They need to be reading books, and talking about all the statistics surrounded by if a child is not reading, and how by the third and fourth grade, if they're not reading, and then just talking about how that correlates to unfortunately, kids who are not well read, they wind up find themselves in a position where they may get incarcerated, or they may become pregnant at a young age, or they may find themselves on welfare. All of these negative statistics, right? But if you are not trying to build a foundation for our kids where they, number one, enjoy reading, where they are able to develop that stamina, to develop the wherewithal to be able to read a book and have the patience because it takes patience, the being able to have that active interactiveness that takes place when you're reading a book. These are all those types of skills that only occur when you're actually doing that assignment. That's not something that is like, okay, yes, you're like necessarily taught, if you will. These are things that occur by you actually doing it. Like, in order for you to actually be able to develop those types of skills, being able to understand character development and all of that, you have to actually get into the book. How is that going to happen if our kids are not being allowed to read a book in its entirety? I don't understand that. And we're talking about, yeah, we have a society where you got kids, they're illiterate or they don't want to read, they're illiterate and all of that. And I'm like, yeah, but if we're not making sure that we are allowing them the space, the opportunity to be able to read the book, get inside of a book, get in the reading zone. Like, that's a dope zone to be in. That is something for myself, I didn't get a chance to experience until I got older. And I talk about that because of the fact, like, to me, those types of skills, if we make sure that our kids develop those skills when they are younger, then as they get older, it won't be it won't be something where we have to feel like we gotta, push them, or it's like pulling teeth to be able to get them to read a book. They've already developed those foundational skills and understanding that, okay, yes, I know how to sit with a book. And then also you think about all the dialogue that occurs if you have a class that has to read a book together. And I know some of folks in my age bracket, you all can relate to that. As in fact, as I remember, one of the books that I did have to read, I remember when I was a freshman, was Of Mice and Men, and we had to read the whole book. And I remember crying. Okay, I think, what was his name, George, when he had to get killed. I think that's what his name was. I remember that. I remember that feeling, and I'm like, our kids need that. That, again, not just the critical thinking, the problem solving, the empathy, understanding, why characters are making certain decisions, the relatability piece. They can look at their own lives and like, okay, you know what? Like, man, I remember doing that. Or, man, why they do that? All of these are things that happen when you are reading a book. And these are the things that actually allows you to grow as a human being. Like, your life shouldn't just be about, oh, okay, I have to make sure I'm answering these questions correctly. I have to make sure that I'm getting this assessment right, so then I can pass the test or pass to the next grade. So basically, all we're doing, once again, is just promoting kids to be like robotic in their thinking. I mean, there are so many different skills that can be nurtured and developed and can flourish just from doing something as simple as reading a book, the whole book. And then you think about the class reading it together, and then they're having discussions about this person, like, oh man, I didn't get that from the book. Wow, like, if that's what you got, okay. And then, the dialogue, that right there, that's education. That's learning. And I truly, truly understand why you have folks who are like, man, F these schools. It's like all you're doing is producing folks who are just going to be some robots. All they're doing is regurgitating what's being given to them. All it is about memorization. You could, all you got to do is just spit back out the facts that I taught you. All you need to know is this, and this, and that's it. That's like, really? Like, that's just like, for example, even in a relationship, you would not want anybody, whether it's a friendship or whether it's a marriage or whatever the case may be, you want somebody to understand who you are, all of you, not just parts of you, right? So, like, this whole notion of not having kids read a whole book, and then, like I said in the article, these kids, these are, again, the elite schools. These are the creme de la creme of the schools, okay? And you would think that these are the kids who are like, man, please, it's a breeze, to be able to go through a book. They are struggling because, again, a lot of these schools, especially in the public schools, and they're saying too in some of these private schools as well, they're not requiring kids to read the whole book. And so I'm saying to y'all, for real, get your babies and make sure as much as possible, tell them, yes, we are going to, even if it's something where you guys are reading a book together, even if it's a book that your child is reading in school, you get that book too. You start reading the book along with them. In fact, my student, Dylan, he is reading the book Copper Sun in his seventh grade ELA class. And so I said, well, excuse me, eighth grade ELA class. And I said, guess what? I'm like, I'm going to get the book too. And I'm going to read it along with you. His mother is going to be reading the book along with him as well. If we got to do things like that, I highly recommend that we do things like that for real, y'all. And even if the school is like, you know what, well, we can't finish the book. No, we make sure as a community, whether it's a parent, a mentor, tutor, whatever, that we make sure that we are reading that book with that child as much as we can. And if we can't physically read a book, there are books on Audible. Okay, I highly recommend getting that if you can, because that's a great way to be able to get that reading in with your child. I do that. I have the Audible platform, and so there are books that I'll be listening to. I have it on in the car, and then my kids will be in the car. In fact, I just did that with the book Finding Me by Viola Davis, her memoir. And it's so cool because it's like the kids, you know how kids are. It's not like they're looking forward to listening to a book online, especially nowadays. Our kids, if they got their own, their little AirPods or whatever the case, they put them in and they listen to what they want to listen to. But you may have some kids who don't have that, and they got to be forced to listen to whatever their mothers and fathers is listening to, right? And so I had that book on playing, and then my daughter, she was making some comments from what she was hearing from the book, and I'm like, that's good. That's what you want. We want that. We want them to be able to have conversations around literacy, around this literature. So, y'all, I'm just telling y'all now, we got to save our babies. We are the ones, okay? We cannot put it in the hands of these schools. I'm telling y'all now, because as you see, it's crazy. It is crazy. It's not about trying to educate our kids for real, for real. It's literally about, okay, we gotta get this test done, we gotta get this done, or whatever the case may be, and making sure they pass it, because these schools know that if the kids pass the test and then it looks good on the school, and then that means more funding for the school. All of that, we know that. Y'all educators, y'all know that. And it's sad. It's just absolutely sad. So for those of you educators out there, you got the ability to be able to have your students read a book in its entirety, please make sure that you're doing that. And again, like I said, this is not something that's happening in all the schools, but it's happening in a lot of schools. And this, again, was from the article that I got from The Atlantic. And I'll read the title again, which is The Elite College Students Who Can't Read Books. And this is the November 2024 issue. All right. And the article was written by Rose Horowitz. Okay. So that's all I have for you today. And I hope that you all gained benefit from this content. And please make sure that you are being that example, and making sure that you are modeling reading. And make sure that you all keep doing the best that you can in terms of connecting reading to pleasure, because that's the thing. We want our young people to understand that reading is pleasurable. Reading is something that's enlightening. It helps us in so many ways. They may not understand how it's helping them in the beginning, but if they understand that it can bring them pleasure, they understand it can bring them entertainment. This is the way, this is the hook in which we can get them more into reading these books, the whole book. All right, y'all. So you all take care, and I'll be talking to you all soon. Thank you again. Peace. All right, y'all. Yes, I just wanted to keep it straight to the point with this particular episode because, again, like I said, we have to be in the business of making sure that we are saving our children. We cannot put our children in the hands of other folks to educate them, and especially when we're trying to get them to read. And we know that reading is the foundation of everything that we learn. We got to know how to read. And kids is struggling with trying to complete a book. Come on, y'all. So let's get into some housekeeping. I just want, again, to remind you all, if you are looking for that pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor, please make sure you go to my website, abclearntutoring.com. And yes, I am a certified dyslexia tutor as well. So sign your babies up. They need some help. And yes, I tutor not only in person, but online. So if you in Georgia, you need my help, Florida, Tennessee, where you at, go ahead and holla, all right, at me, Miss Sasha, and I will help your child, okay? Also, I am the founder and executive director of ABC Read. ABC Read, y'all, is the nonprofit organization. And our mission is to develop and nurture a culture of literacy in Black and underserved communities. All right, so we're giving these books to the communities, building home libraries. And yes, we're not just giving them so you can just have them look pretty on your shelves. We want our folks to actually open them up and read these books. Okay, this is what we want to happen. All right. And also, I want you to make sure that you all go to YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which this podcast will be uploaded to there. Reading is freedom, okay? So make sure you guys go there. There's a plethora of read alouds on there. So please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the notification bell, all of that, all right? And then make sure you check out, y'all see, what's up with the hoodie? Y'all know what it is. Ooh, what? Come on, y'all. That's what we trying to, what we trying to do, okay? What we trying to, we trying to rep for real. All right, reading is freedom. Go to readingisfreedom.store, grab your mug, grab your hoodie, okay? So you can be all cozied up with your hoodie on, have your sweatshirt, have your drink, and then have your bookie book, okay? So that's what I'm talking about, all right? So y'all know how I do, okay? I gotta keep it silly and corny all at the same time. All right, y'all. So, and like I said in the episode, let me tell you all the book I just finished listening to, Finding Me by Viola Davis. I would recommend, I'm glad that I was able to listen to her read that book, especially when it comes to those books that are on Audible, or you listening to books being read. You gotta have somebody, number one, they gotta know how to read the book to keep you captivated. And y'all already know Viola Davis know how to read, like put the feeling, just make you feel like you was there. Okay, that book, yes, I recommend, okay? So, and the book that I'm actually about to get into as well, let me show y'all. Bam! The Message, oh yes, it's on Ta-Nehisi Coates, okay? So, yeah, y'all already know. And I want to, of course, leave you all with the quote. I will leave you all with the quote from Malcolm X, which said that he said, read everything that you can get your hands on. All right, y'all. Y'all take care. And please remember to keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. My name is Miss Sasha, and this has been another episode of Real Reading Talk. Take care. Reading is freedom. Peace.